knee, had been waiting outside for the delivery. As she turned, her arm and knee gave out. She fell and hit her head on the way down. I just remember laying in my driveway thinking, this is pretty much over. I'm laying there and I saw a whole lot of white clouds. Furtado had previous medical knowledge from her time training as an emergency medical technician, but had failed the National Registry test. She noticed Sullivan's blood was congealing and estimated she had been lying outside maybe as much as 15 or 20 minutes. Karen was unresponsive and her eyes kept rolling in the back of her head. Furtado said, I felt like I was going to lose her. Sullivan's husband, Robert, had been asleep inside the house, but awoke to Furtado's calls for help. She told him to get some supplies as she dialed 911. According to Officer Jim Jodine of the Fairhaven Police Department, Furtado spoke with the dispatcher while rendering aid. At that moment, Sophia became part of our team to aid Karen, Jodine said to CNN. I asked her if it was possible for her to keep stabilizing Karen's neck to keep her spine safe. Her answer was, I'm not going anywhere. Thank God she was there. If she hadn't been there, I'd been dead, Sullivan told CNN. Soon after, officers and medics began arriving. Furtado stayed with her until Sullivan was transported to the hospital. Sullivan said she was in the hospital for about 3 weeks. She had been suffering from 2 separate severe brain bleeds. Robert and her daughter Veronica were by her side the entire time. At one point, she said the two of them were waiting until 2 a.m. to see if they were make it. Long story short, despite the terrifying experience, Sullivan and Furtado gained a friendship through the trauma. I'm so thankful for her. She's like my guardian angel, Sullivan said. Thank God she was there. Sullivan each gave Furtado's 2 children Easter gifts. Furtado was awarded $1,000 from DoorDash and a life-saving award from the Fairhaven Police Department. We are incredibly grateful to Ms. Furtado and stepping in during a critical moment, and we are relieved that the customer has safely recovered, DoorDash spokesman said. Her care and quick response were nothing short of heroic, and we are honored to be able to show our appreciation for her tremendous efforts. The recognition came as a surprise. Furtado had previously been a DoorDash driver and picked up the job again in January. She said she hopes to use the money towards more EMT school when her family becomes more financially stable. She and Sullivan added they will continue to stay in touch and plan to meet up again. Good story to end. Anytime you can help someone, it's a good thing. After all, we are all we get a lot of the times with each other. Let's take care of each other a little bit better. That'll do it for Heard Tell for today. That'll do it for the week. Don't forget, we'll do the Twice on Sunday show on Sunday morning. That's a recap of all the interviews, and boy, did we have some great interviews this week. Strong guests. Busy week in the news cycle. I think we did a pretty good job of turning down the noise on it. We're going to keep working hard on it because times like these, that's what we need. More grown folk talk, more discerning our times, less caterwauling, less reacting to the news, more staying ahead of it and knowing what's really going on in the world we inhabit. So until we see you again, we hope you're well. We hope you are well fed. We'll talk to you again soon on Heard Tell. All the music on Heard Tell is provided under a Creative Content license from monstercat.com.
Somos la máquina.
Bringing you the best local talk radio shows, Wilmington's Big Talker 106.7 FM, WFBT, Carolina Beach.
I'm an HVAC technician, summer's most popular person. To say my job is stable is an understatement. Every home has an air conditioning and heating unit, so I will always be needed. The best part? I make great money in a career I love. I went to CFCC and got hands-on practical training and quickly got a job. Knowing I will always have a good-paying job means a lot to me. I got my start at CFCC, and you can too. Make it happen. Make it CFCC. Visit cfcc.edu/HVAC and get started today.
Steven.
Who said that?
Me, down here.
Ugh, what are you, a yellow booger?
I'm a banana slug, Steven.
What are you doing in my room?
I'm your sense of adventure. It's been a long time since we've had an adventure in the forest.
Mom took me to the forest last year.
I'm a slug, Steven. It took me a long time to get here.
You're right. I should get out.
Yeah, the forest is not that far away.
Hey, Mom!
Come to the forest where the more adventurous you lives. Check out discovertheforest.org for cool places nearby. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Hello, I'm Matt Bennett with WWAY News. The Bishop of the Diocese of Raleigh made a visit to the Cape Fear yesterday to celebrate a multi-million-dollar expansion project for a Catholic church in eastern Pender County. All Saints Catholic Church in Hampstead has raised more than $3 million to build a new sanctuary. The project includes a 750-seat church. The bishop performed a blessing of the grounds where the new sanctuary will be built. A major lawsuit has been settled out of court. The suit was filed after a nursing home resident was allegedly beaten so badly in his sleep by another resident, he died of his injuries days later. There was concern over whether the lawsuit would be able to continue through court due to a COVID law giving healthcare facilities immunity from safety and staffing related to lawsuits. Family attorney Jim Lee saying the matter has been resolved satisfactory to all parties. The FDA says it is limiting the emergency use authorization of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine to adults for whom other vaccines aren't appropriate or accessible, and to adults who wouldn't otherwise get vaccinated. The FDA says the move is due to the risk of an extremely rare but dangerous blood clotting condition associated with the J&J vaccine called TTS. The FDA says 15% of those cases have been fatal. And one North Carolina educator reached for the stars after accomplishing a dream he'd worked toward for more than 50 years. Professor Jim Kitchen at UNC Chapel Hill accomplished his dream of going to space a month ago on a Blue Origin rocket flight. Kitchen, who has visited every single country recognized by the United Nations, remembers applying for this expedition dozens of times a week for months, and says what he saw and felt has changed him forever. For more on these stories, you can head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Matt Bennett. Have a great day.
Happy Friday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. Expecting a warm one here in the Cape Fear as our high temperatures climb into the upper 80s and the low 90s away from the coast. Coastal areas will squeeze into the lower 80s this afternoon with south winds gusting as high as 20 to 25 miles per hour. But heading into the evening hours tonight, we can expect a few strong to severe thunderstorms, with the primary concern being gusty winds. Coverage of showers should come to an end after midnight and our temperatures fall down to the middle and upper 60s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart and brain. Who's with me?
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
And my brain is saying, when it's time to go home, somebody call me a ride.
Love that guy.
Me too.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Justin Humphreys from the Humphreys Law Firm on Eastwood Road. Tune in Thursdays from 6 to 7 p.m. for Objection to the Form, covering civil litigation, real estate issues, and intellectual property. That's Objection to the Form, Thursdays 6 to 7 p.m. right here on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
If a natural disaster comes knocking, how prepared is your family? You can't just close the door on earthquakes, floods, or hurricanes and hope they go away. That's why it's important to make a plan now. Ready.gov/plan has the tools and tips you need to prepare your family for an emergency. So if disaster shows up at your doorstep, you'll be ready. Visit ready.gov/plan and make a plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Hey, welcome back to the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad. Coming at you live from an undisclosed location. Okay, Holly Ridge. Please visit the website at bigtalker.live. There you'll see the schedule of stuff coming up, content, shows, and other things. Also an email contact, so you can send us any compliments, critiques, comments, questions, or concerns you may have. We can't improve without your assistance, and, you know, we're more your radio station than we are the corporate sponsorships, right? And most of our stuff is locally supported. In fact, one of the things I want to point out before we get too far into the show, and my little brain just can't maintain all that, today is the day of the Family First Education Roundtable, to be held at 3 p.m. at the New Hanover County GOP at 829 South Carr Avenue in Wilmington. Guests will include the NCGOP Chairman Michael Watley, Vice Chair Susan Mills, Congressman David Rouser, Senator Michael Lee, New Hanover County Board of Education member Pete Wildeboer, and Chelsea Cooley, who's a local mom and education advocate. Let's see. Their release, Media Advisory, NCGOP to host Family First Education Roundtable in Wilmington today at 3 o'clock. The NCGOP knows that North Carolina families are focused on ensuring a sound education for their children. That means school choice, parental rights, a focus on fundamentals, and ensuring that reading and math shape the curriculum. Local and state Republican leaders join with community advocates to discuss these education issues at the North Carolina GOP Family First Education Roundtable in Wilmington. Come hear what parents and community leaders are care most about when it comes to education as they discuss bold Republican solutions for putting family first. Again, another opportunity for voters to get informed and to get in touch with with their representatives, senators, and other people. And if you're Republican, that'd be a good thing to do. Again, let's see, another reminder, tomorrow, the Cape Fear River Watch. I should call up some of those details to make sure I get them all right. Oh, come on there, Mr. Webby guy. Cape Fear River Watch.org. I mean, you can type along at home if you would so like. And let's see, we have nature camps coming up. Oh, get back here. I didn't want that. The Plastic Pandemic, Saturday at 8 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. with pancakes and coffee, ladies and gentlemen, May 7th, 8 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. We hope you can join us for our May 1st Saturday seminar, which will be our first in-person seminar since the beginning of COVID. We cannot wait to share coffee and pancakes with you at our office. Cape Fear River Watch staff members Rob Clark and Audrey Dunn will be discussing the growing plastics crisis, including plastics' dire environmental impacts from production to disposal or lack thereof, as well as Cape Fear River Watch's work to combat plastic pollution in our area. You can check out Audrey and Rob's bios on the CapeFearRiverWatch.org website. For those who prefer to attend via Zoom, that option will also be available, and you can register for that also at the website. If you want to attend in person, please, go to the CapeFearRiverWatch.org. Take a look. The seminar will be held at 617 Surrey Street with doors opening at 8 a.m. and the presentation beginning at 9 with, again, pancakes and coffee. If that doesn't get you out of bed in downtown, I don't know what will. I mean, if I didn't have a gig tonight and, was going to be asleep during most of that, I would drive from Holly Ridge just for the pancakes and coffee. And to know that there are positive, hopeful people like that, doing what they can to make things happen. Good things, right? So, a couple of events, one today, one tomorrow. Get involved, get informed, take back the planet. Anyway, wonderful heard tell this morning with Andrew Donaldson hitting a couple of interesting and, how would you say, volatile topics, right? We're talking healthcare, we're talking, that's, and the Amber Heard thing with Johnny Depp. I mean, this has been a reality. Like, if anybody is over the top about any one single person, they've kind of lost sight of their own path, I think, right? And it doesn't matter what that celebrity person is. It could be Kanye West, it could be Kim Kardashian, it could be Johnny Depp, it could be a former president. If that is the sole focus no. Again, as Andrew pointed out, they put socks on too, ladies and gentlemen. There's a shadow in their heart, just like there is in yours and mine. Fanaticism is very close to idol worshiping I would think, and it sure seems like it. Maybe I'm wrong. Not uncommon, not unusual. But I do have a feeling that when somebody, for myself, I tend to distance myself from other people that have such extreme fanatical ideologies because it clouds the path. Just as Andrew pointed out, once you've idolized a person, you have basically absolved them of any wrongdoing. And you can no longer see them as a human being. You now see them as some sort of deity. And you can't question your God, right? So that's going to cause some internal issues when trying to develop your own path, like this whole what would Johnny Depp do, right? Is that how we run our world? I think Johnny Depp did some great work, but I think he's just as messed up as you or me. And there are things that we can respect about a person, right? I mean, there have been stories that Johnny Depp dresses up in character to go encourage or inspire or, cheer up or whatever the term you want to use, terminally ill and other, I believe one of them was a terminally ill cancer ward for children, right? They don't have a lot of joy in their lives, and to be surprised by the captain of the Black Pearl, Jack Sparrow, that's kind of cool. But that doesn't absolve him from being an a-hole, right? No more so than the trappings and vestiges of this Russian pontiff absolves him from the wrongdoing that he's committing. So the parallels across the entire thing is that any one person that you worship is already shortchanging your own ability to grow. Certainly, because in any parallel, right? It's almost like a stigmatism of some sort. I don't know. It's I can't even put it into words. It's so incomprehensible to me. I think I was taught that from an early age when I, was like 9 or 10. Kiss records were landing, and they were the most obscene thing my parents had seen, and were very much, reactionary towards it, which, of course, at that age, that's the rebellious age where I'm starting to develop my own identity, and of course rejected that. And of course, my parents were saying things like, that's silly, that's ridiculous, which is weird because at the same time I'm still studying to be first chair on cello for orchestra. And the only cello I had heard on hit music was like Houses of the Holy and such, with Led Zeppelin, right? Kashmir, I heard a cello in there. Very, very seldom is cello heard outside of classical music. But my parents were pointing out how ridiculous it was to be almost worshiping the band. And within about 5 or 6 years, and 6 or 7 albums later, and the denied request to see them in concert because I was, too young, I sort of figured it out that, yeah, it's okay to like a band and to buy a couple of records and, be involved and know some of the history, but to worship, there are Beatles fanatics to the point that they have told me that nobody else can write a song anywhere as good as the Beatles. It's listenable, but only the Beatles could write a good song, and I find that absolutely ridiculous. I find that to be a shortchanging of their own ability to enjoy what's out there being offered because they're blinded by one item, like a magpie, that they can't appreciate the same beauty that's in other artists' offerings, which makes a good segue into the project called The Voice in the Pen. We will have C.B. Johnson on, one of the hosts and one of the organizers of The Voice in the Pen, which is all about original singer-songwriter material right here in North Carolina, and much of it right here in our area in southeastern North Carolina. So there. And it's an interesting development to show that this artistic endeavor is not limited, that our human experience is not limited to each of us in a void on our own, right? And it doesn't matter which color shirt you wear or the D, R, or I after the name. Every one of these people has to go to the toilet. Every one of these people has to get naked and wash their bodies, right? Everybody is the same at some level. We all have hemoglobin, right? The fact that we have found so many ways to separate ourselves and to divide ourselves with such extreme polarity is amusing. Because the older, well, I don't know. I'm hoping that the faster we mature technologically, the more sophisticated our culture is able to incorporate this information. Because we're seeing firsthand the ridiculous nature of the political machination, how it operates exactly like a wrestling scheme. And they're laughing at us the whole way, the whole time. And rightfully so, because we are stupid. We continue to support this stupidity. We continue to support this insane endeavor. We seem to buy into this. You know, again, part of it is worshiping these idiots. None of these people are heroes. The real heroes are like what you just heard on Heard Tell. Pizza delivery person noticed, come on now. Can we do better as people, as a species? Yes, but it depends on each of us individually. E pluribus unum. Out of many, one. None of our experiences are that unique. We are all living and breathing on the same rock. So finding more ways to divide ourselves and buying into the hype and such is just not helping. The longevity of our species is not encouraged by such behavior and attitudes. Disagreeing is one thing. Resolving those disagreements is the sign of maturity. How we resolve those differences would be the sign of our maturity. And I think if we were to take a snapshot of our friends in England, I still have to giggle at that story because you know it happens in our own Congress, in our own House. You know it. You know it. Yeah, they're searching Dominator combines. You can bet it. I mean, porn is one of the most understated, nefarious presences in our life that it's a disparate percentage of men. I will say that. Those numbers are indisputable. However, it permeates our culture. It is part of who we are as a species. So yeah, human nature, undefeated. But given that, we're going back to a Robin Williams skit, I don't care what the guy's doing. As long as he's effective getting people to work, getting our economy up and robust, and be a solid ally to our friends in Europe, then it doesn't matter. You can watch all the combine harvesters you want. But please pay attention to the issue. And please vote, or whatever it is that needs to happen, And what's interesting, we pointed out yesterday, over the 40-year decline of civics education in our population is frightening. It seems you have to wait until college until you're able to understand that the president does not rule the country. And even then, in the elitist schools, apparently, right? Because some of our former leaders who seem to think that they have I don't know. Don't even want to go there. It's just very upsetting that there's a lack of understanding of how the system actually works and should work. Right? I mean, we have representatives who think that the trademarks and copyrights, they don't know one from the other, and they seem to think they go through the legislature, and really, maybe we should have a civics test to hand out to every candidate when they apply to be a candidate, if that makes sense. So, because you have to get your name onto you have to do this paperwork and file and all this stuff. And part of that requirement should be a civics test to demonstrate that you know what you're doing and why you're there. If your entire experience in life is being coddled by your parents and being on a reality show, and I'm not, we had, I don't know if he's still running, I should look. Oh yeah, give me a moment. Whoops. No way. This does not bode well for anybody all the way around. Oh my God. Oh man. Oh yeah, he's still trying. And he is... Oh my, oh, this is, Oh my gosh, I guess I'm gonna have to. All right, so Clay Aiken is running as a Democrat for Congress, and his tagline is, "Congress is a disaster, it's time to send a new voice." How horrible is that? I mean, wow. And he's got a little logo. Clay, a voice for North Carolina. And it even has a cute little microphone. So he's pretty much displaying right there in front of you that he has no idea what he's doing. Clay is a strong Democrat running for Congress to give a voice to those who want to bring sanity and civility back to the political conversation. He knows he can't change Washington by himself, but he has a voice. Wait, he also has learned that he has a voice that makes people listen, and he'll use it for the people of North Carolina's 4th District to deliver on needed progressive policies, from stopping climate change, systemic racism, income inequality, and gun violence, to securing voting rights, free health care, and a woman's right to choose. And he's going to do it all by singing Michael Bublé covers. Or maybe Beatles tunes. All you need is love. I don't know. I just can't take this guy seriously at all. I don't see any other, all the entire page is designed to send money. There's no other information. There's no other clicky, right? There's nothing there to tell me, to inspire me, or to give me confidence that this person isn't just looking for another way to earn a living without having to, work. And I find this true of a lot of other politicians, and yes, it just got pointed out to me by a friend of mine. I can't have it both ways. No, but I can find something in the middle. I don't think a career politician is a good, should be any more legitimate than a YouTube influencer. And yes, I have stated that I think it's important to have regular people representing us in Congress and the Senate, right? But I mean regular people who actually work for a living, who have actually made successes in their life, right? I mean, for me, back in high school, it was half a joke, but I'm still kind of serious about it. Somebody like Lee Iacocca, I think, would have done a better job at the political, managing or being involved in the political landscape, because he had the type of mind that looked to solve problems, to solve issues. And that's what we need. And this guy just doesn't inspire that. Right? I mean, the only reason why we know his name is he sang a few cover songs on a reality show that he didn't win. I just don't see this experience in any way in even beyond that. What does that tell us as voters that we would want to vote for this person? There's nothing in that history. I would like to see a history where they've worked in even the private sector or even in the governmental sector. For example, as pointed out on the Supreme Court, most of the people that have been nominated to the Supreme Court were the legal aides or assistants or whatever it is, the clerks, that's it. They clerked for a Supreme Court judge before they themselves were really eligible to be Supreme Court nominees. You feel me? So it's that type of progress where you don't hire the guy straight off the, straight out of college to run your mega $1 million project. You hire him to work with the experienced guy who does manage the multi-million-dollar project to give the new guy the experience, even though he has the school knowledge. Now he gets to see it in action before you let him loose and sell the Millennium Tower in San Francisco or build it or whatever the hell happened there. So our leadership, our representation should follow the same type of path. And that's where cats like Bill Moore and the GOP in Brunswick County and Paul Vallone at Guns, Politics, and Freedom are excelling at educating the voters. They are not the only outlets. There are hundreds of outlets, and it's not politically or it's not party dependent. There's all sorts of informational outlets. Some lean left, some lean right. That's just the reality. Not all of it makes sense. And even within each candidate's bio, etc., you can start to determine for yourself with greater information. And what's awesome about shows like Heard Tell, at least for me, is it puts it into a sense of context that I don't have these experiences, right? I have never been in a political debate. I have never presented a bill. So without knowing how that really works, walking through those halls, I need information from people who understand that, who do this stuff, who have been there, right? I mean, one of the interviews Andrew did was with a guy who actually was a staffer, who was walking those halls in the Capitol building and wherever else, Rotunda. I hear the names, and they do resonate a sense of, I don't know, like a nostalgic patriotism, because these are important places. They are icons of our democracy from its, democratic republic, from its infancy to where we are now. Thousands of people have walked those halls over the 250 years. And it's still that sacred, that solemn type of vibe, I guess. That if we can't have it for we don't experience it for ourselves necessarily. The closest thing for a lot of people is walking into a church. There's a sense of an overwhelming sense of respect, or it sort of puts it in perspective that you are puny. You are a single ant among 8 billion crawling around on this rock, spinning through space. Right? It helps to have some sense of universe to put it into. And in our case here in North Carolina, the municipal elections, which are historically the lowest voter turnout, are the ones that are really the most significant. This election is the most important election of our lifetime. Every one of them is. Every single one of them is. And I think this guy, Mr. Andrew Donaldson from Ordinary Times, who brought us that amazing conversation earlier today about healthcare and such, is able to join me this morning, and I am forever grateful for this. How are you doing this morning, sir? Uh-oh. Oh, no. Oh, because I have the wrong faders. Ah! It's getting too fancy here. How are you doing this morning? I'll try it again.
Nah, we're doing okay. How are you, my friend?
A little confused.
Well, enough edibles.
Well, here in the 21st century, the two questions that, like I mentioned earlier this morning, is this Russian rich guy or church guy spouting political stuff. Kirill. And then we have
Patriarch Kirill. I call him some other words in front of Kirill, but we can't do those because of FCC regulations.
Keeping it safe. But we have some of those parallels here, and the other one is more specific to the conversation you had this morning about the health care. And one of the questions I wanted one is, which health care? Is it vision or dental or mental or torso?
Yeah,
or...
Fair point. One thing that we got into, we didn't get into it in the conversation with Elise, although I would like to in a future time. Part of the problem we got is when you have employer-based health care is they're going to only be interested in the health care that keeps you being an employee.
Yeah.
So the military has this problem. You get great health care when you're in the military, but you get great health care as far as it is to get you back online and back in the fight and back on duty. Everything outside of that goes by the wayside, which is why the VA is full of people all busted up, because the healthcare system, and this is not a knock, I'm not trying to start a fight here, it just is what it is. You know, there's a mentality of just patch me up and get me back to work, I can push through it, this sort of thing, and that's why you got a VA full of busted up and broken people.
But they're alive. Yeah. Oh, we saved their life, even though their life is ruined.
They're alive, but, you know, I'm talking from not inconsiderable personal experience here. You do a lot of damage to yourself, whereas perhaps a healthcare system that's more holistic in its approach doesn't have that kind of mentality built into it. And I'm not picking on it because nobody held a gun to me and made me do that. I did that on my own volitions. That's partly my fault. But there is a systemic discussion to be had there. Employee-based healthcare, you know, that's why you got to fight to get dental. You got to fight to get mental health care. You got to fight to get those sorts of things, because all they really want to do is, hey, don't be sick so you don't miss any work. And I'm not blaming them. I'm not knocking them. This isn't a rant about capitalism or anything like that. It just is how it is. But when you sit down to do policy, it's something that you need to think about and consider of when you have an employee-based healthcare model that's going to have an inherent institute, and Hyatt's what you do with your brownies, inherent institutional bias and structural problems built into it because of who controls it. Whoever pays for something is going to get it the way you want to. And if your employee is paying for your health insurance, even if it goes through one of these major companies, it's going to shade that coverage and your health care in that direction. By the way, before anybody starts sending in their hate mail, this is true for the government health care as well, because government, now you're dealing with a bureaucracy which couldn't care less whether you get it done. So that has its flaws too. There is no such thing as a perfect healthcare system. Just everybody get that through your head right off the jump. No such thing. So now that we all establish that, we can sit down and have a grown folk talk about healthcare.
And that's when everybody freaked out when you put the word social in front of it. Even though we have Social Security and this Medicare thing was part of the discussion, which it's still kind of freaky in a lot of ways, that it would seem that as a community of, 330 million people, that healthcare would be as regular as getting a license for driving a car.
So let me lay this all on the table, because healthcare is one of those things where we talk about it in bits and pieces and we don't talk about the whole thing. Let me lay this out, okay? And I tell people online all the time, like, you want to discuss healthcare with me, go ahead. You need to understand two things. One is I've lived in Germany twice. I've been a patient in a German hospital. I've lived in a country that has socialized, government-funded, cradle-to-the-grave medicine, okay? I've lived there.
Perfect.
I've paid the taxes there. I've lived there. I know the good. They got great health care. They got fantastic health care. They also pay 60% taxes once you add on the VAT tax on top of it. It's a different standard of living to get that standard of health care. I am also a VA medical patient, have been since I got out of the military. Okay. The VA, everybody listen to me real close. Y'all in overflow, scooch into the monitor so you can hear this real close. Those of you that couldn't get into service. And those of you that are in Logan, I'm going to talk slow and use small words because everybody needs to understand this. Okay. We have socialized medicine, top down, single payer, government funded socialized medicine in America. It's called the VA healthcare system. Okay. Everybody just hush. Just listen to me for a second. That's what it is. That's what the VA is. The VA is the largest integrated healthcare system in America by a bunch. It's not even close. Talking about over 1,000 healthcare centers and hospitals. Okay. That entire system, and the VA is the second biggest branch of the federal government. Did everybody understand that? After Department of Defense, it's the second biggest, and it's bigger than the next two combined. That's how much government it takes to run the VA. Now, the VA is more than just the healthcare system, but to the point. There's 9 million patients in the VA healthcare system. That's only half of all the veterans, which is about 15 to 18 million, depending on which metric you want to use. About half of all the veterans, a little more, a little closer to 60%, I should say, are patients in that VA system. It takes the second biggest department of the federal government, and it takes the largest integrated healthcare system in America to take care of 9 million people the way the VA does, which we all understand is really good in some respects, but also very limited and fraught with problems. If you want to discuss single-payer, top-down, government-run socialized medicine, scale that 9 million to 330 million people, and now you're at the basis for starting that conversation. Let me repeat myself there because people need to understand this. It takes the second largest department of government, bigger than DHS, bigger than Homeland Security, bigger than Commerce, and bigger than Home and Health put together, the VA is, to take care of 9 million people. And it's
that's
the
in a
biggest healthcare
specific age range, meaning...
And it's, I mean, there's...
Nobody below the age of 17, 18.
Okay, that's fair. You're correct. And the fastest growing element of that is women's care because we have diversified 15, 20 years ago, they didn't have OBGYNs at the VA. Okay,
Right.
now we do. Things like this. We didn't have pediatricians at the VA. 9 million people, it takes that much government to run it. And not run it very well, by the way.
And that's
so if you want to scale
1/33.
that to 330 million people, do the math, TK. How much more government are you going to need?
33.
Minimum.
At least 33. Because 10 to 330 is a factor of 33. Because 33
That's
times
not
10.
33%. That's 33 times.
33. Yeah, that would be 300 or 3,300%.
That would, if we did that, if you expanded the U.S. government by a factor of 33.
It would exceed DOD at that point, I guess.
I'm just, you got to understand what we're talking about. People are like, well, just get rid of all the privatized health care and give it all to the government. Government can't handle it. Government can't take care of 9 million people.
They can't
take care
handle
of
their own
330.
checkbook.
Now, they could. Now, here's where we got to go back over to Europe because everybody wants to point to Europe.
Okay, because Germany does have something figured out, even though it's expensive in the taxes.
It's expensive. It's very good health care. I've been a patient in the VA. I've had
But it's
a German
nationally
ambulance.
connected, right?
I've had a German ambulance come pick me up from an accident in my home. Okay, I've done the German healthcare. It's good healthcare, other than that ketamine shot they give me, which that's like when you go to Lightspeed in Star Wars. I did not like that, but other than that, good healthcare. Here's the thing, though. Their whole standard of living in their entire country and the way they do global politics and the way they do things like defense and foreign aid and foreign policy is all tied to their healthcare system because it is the biggest component of their government by a factor of about 10.
What?
This is what's run.
Are you saying their health care is more important to them than their defense budget?
Yes, but that's the deal they made because, and let's be adults here, they've had us big brothering over their shoulder that if they really had a big problem with the Russians or somebody, they knew we'd be right there because we have such a huge presence in Germany.
Because we're
so
doing
they've gotten
such a
away
great
with
job
it.
now.
Well, no, well, we did.
Sorry.
Look, the longest sustained period of peace in the history of Europe has been the last 70 years because we, meaning America, parked ourselves in the middle of it and said, don't cross this line or else. That's the longest sustained period of peace Europe has ever had. And it's because of us. Sorry. Sorry, Noam Chomsky. I know that hurts your feelings. Sorry, it's just true. Sorry, tankies. Go ahead and get mad about it.
And that's what they based the entire May 9 celebration on in Russia, is that they saved the world.
Yeah, well, go look up Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact real quick, where they partitioned Poland and they made a peace treaty with. Hold on, let me check my notes here. Stalin made a peace treaty with the Nazis to carve up other countries. So go ahead and miss me with how you beat the Nazis by yourself, because you're the ones that was signing peace treaties and trying to carve up for yourself. And then you got all butthurt when Hitler stabbed you in the back and invaded anyway. That's a you problem. Sorry. All right.
That's why I love having Andrew on this show. He's just
now look now
loaded.
the argument that they, if you're watching on the live cam, the cat just jumped behind me. Go away. That's Kenobi, ladies and gentlemen. Now, if you want to argue that the Russians chewed up the best of the German army on the Eastern Front, that's inarguable. The best of the German army died on the Eastern Front, and then what we dealt with was not the creme de la creme of the German military once we invaded. You want to make that argument, you can, but no, they didn't defeat the Nazis by themselves. But back to Germany. The point is, you have to decide what kind of a society and country you want. Are we going to be a global superpower? Are we going to be the most dynamic economy in the world? Because that all goes away if we change how we do our healthcare. Now, some folks will say that's a price worth paying. But that's what you're really talking about. You're not talking about this pie-in-the-sky nonsense that our government leaders want to sell you on. There's real decisions to be made here, but we don't want to have grown folk talk about it because everybody just wants their free, and there's nothing such thing as free. Okay. Somebody's paying for it.
I got a question.
Somebody's always going to pay for it, and it's always going to be the American people that wind up paying for it.
Now, you worked in logistics and transportation for...
I did.
And that was Air Force, yes?
Air Force and civilian. That's what I was doing before I got too sick to have a real job and wound up being a writer and radio person.
So you're used to dealing with incredibly large organizations moving stuff around this rock.
There's actually a whole segment of logistics that is just medical logistics now because medical and healthcare is so big. It's its own separate thing.
Thank you. Why not
You're welcome.
Just roll them together? Why not just put healthcare in DOD? Because it is the defense of our people. We're defending them against illness and healthcare issues, and in a lot of cases, bankruptcy. Right? Because anybody who gets cancer is pretty much bankrupt. Right? That's
no. The DOD's big enough. It's already bloated beyond all recognition. It doesn't need anything else.
Well, I mean, reinvent the whole thing so that our entire healthcare and defense.
That's not how we do government. That's not how we do government. We don't reinvent. We add to. We just add hat on a hat.
Okay.
That's why our bureaucracy is out of control. Yeah. So
you don't think that reform is even possible in the 21st century?
No. What they're going to do is they'll wind up with some half-assed compromise thing where they try to do both, and it'll end up being a disaster. Because politically, they're not politically, you can't do what's necessary to do good health care in America because, number one, let's just start on the base level here. This is a lot like abortion. Like we're going to debate abortion because they're going to the Senate's going to vote on the exact same bill they just voted down in February and act like they're doing something new. They just voted on this not a month ago and shot it down. They're going to vote on the same thing again, only they took all the compromise stuff out of it, so it's really not going to pass now.
Huh.
This is the same problem with abortion. You know, the real problem with abortion is people say, well, we don't have a policy on it. Well, you can't have a policy on it because nobody can agree on what it is. Is it 15 weeks? Is it 20 weeks? Is it conception? Is it birth? Like nobody can, you can't agree on it, so there's no way to ever have a policy. This is the same problem with healthcare. Nobody can agree on what it is, so there's no way to have a policy on it because we can't agree on what is healthcare. What is healthcare? Is that just doctor's visit? Is that palliative care? Does that go into preventative medicine? Does that include, like you just started this conversation out, does that include dental and mental health and vaccines and preventative care and palliative care? Does that include things like hospice, end-of-life care? Does that cover it? Is that health care? Or should we just, kill those people a second with assisted suicide? Or should we let them have elected surgeries even if they're elderly and die? This you can go on and on and on and on and on. We as a people are too immature to sit down and agree on what is healthcare. And until you decide and can define what is healthcare, you are never going to have a cohesive, functional healthcare system.
I can answer that, though. Healthcare is profitable.
Well, now now you're talking a business model, not a healthcare model.
Right, and that's where I get the most upset is like if you've ever seen the Adam Ruins Everything on medicine and healthcare and pricing.
I had a troop named Adam who did indeed ruin everything, and we ended up court-martialing him, but that's neither here nor there.
But it's a great piece that exposes a lot of the hidden truths of how billing is done. We are billed $12 for an Advil, but the insurance company is billed $2.
Okay, so if it's going to be a business, do we leave it in a free market to work itself out, or is it a government-regulated system?
Oh, like the airlines?
Because the insurance companies take a lot of the blame. Elise talked about this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Not just medication, but billing. We've talked about this on the Big Talker for years now, especially with the hospital merger stuff. There needs to be transparency in billing and how healthcare. Elise said it this morning. Healthcare is the only thing in the world that you spend money on without knowing how much it is ahead of time. That's the only thing you spend money on that you don't get the price.
And you can't comparative shop. You can't do anything like you would in the open market of anything else.
Correct. So
and you're also
the question
limited to what you can get. For example, a wheelchair. There's only 2 or 3 wheelchair companies that provide that product to assist.
Oh, have you ever tried to put a ramp on your house if you become wheelchair bound?
No.
We used to. We had an advertiser at the old station. Remember about putting in medical treatment stuff. Why do they have to advertise? Because if you're on Medicare, Medicaid, you're locked into only 1 or 2 verified people that can give you medical equipment. And it's one of the fastest growing areas of healthcare business is home medical equipment, beds, ramps, wheelchairs, shower modifications,
oxygen,
things like this. Oxygen's a huge one. CPAP machines. There's a lot of home health stuff that used to be hospital.
Like filters,
you can get I came home from the hospital. I still had a J tube. I had a feeding tube at home with a pump, with an IV stand, the whole thing. I had all that at home. That was all home health care. I had to sit in the hospital 6 extra days waiting on the home health care to get approved for that, so I could get out of the hospital. They spent a year, wouldn't let me get in the hospital, so I could love socialized medicine. Took 10 months to get in to have the surgery on one. Then once I had it, and they almost killed me, took 6 days for that. I stayed in the hospital 6 extra days waiting on the home health care to get lined out with the payment stuff.
Wow.
And it was because I had to have a J tube, which anybody doesn't know, they go about 2 inches to the left of where your belly button is, and they surgically have a feeding tube that goes directly into your intestine, and it actually hangs out with a little rubber siphon thing, and you connect it to an IV pole, and it has a pump on it, and it pumps your nutrition directly into your intestine until your stomach starts working again. I was on it for about 6 extra weeks after I got out of the hospital. I've had to do home health care. It's not fun. Home health care nurse had to come, all that fun stuff. Who's going to pay for that? That's the stuff we're talking about where this starts getting really, really icky in a hurry.
Oh, man. So I think quagmire would be a good term to use for this little section of our life experiences.
Well, no, because Elise talked about it this morning. I'm not going to give it away. You got to go listen to the program. The date is 2026. By the way, that's a midterm election year. You knew that was going to work, right?
Oh, yeah.
2026, this whole thing collapses. The current way that the ACA was written and the way current regulation is written, 2026 is when this whole thing hits a wall. And the Medicare funding ends. Medicaid, I should say, Medicare. The funding runs out. They are going to have to redo this whole system, a big chunk of it, especially the Medicare side of it. That all has to be redone prior to 2026, or we're going to have a big old mess on our hands. Do you have any confidence that Congress is going to adequately address this in a sober, look, if I told you right now, let's say TK Turbo has a mortgage, and I said there's going to be a tree fall on your house in 2026, what would you do this afternoon?
Take the tree down.
Thank you. Like, if I told you anything bad was going to happen in the future to something that really, really mattered, you would go and take action now. You wouldn't wait. We are waiting to the last minute because this is going to be a political football. It's going to be a mess. There's no good answer here. Whatever they do is not going to go over well because somebody's going to get hurt in it. And it affects the biggest, the most engaged voter bloc and the most donating voter bloc, which is older Americans. So yeah, go ahead and put it. I asked her vaguely. I was like, "What's something we need to look for?" And she's like, "2026." Like that was her answer to my "What should we look for?"
Boom.
2026. Like she just hit me over the head with it. 2026, it's coming. Clock's ticking. You can't stop it. You better do something about it.
And there's going to be some hits in the profit area. I mean, pharmacy, healthcare, insurance companies are some of the largest lobbyists. And I think collectively, probably the largest lobbying presence.
Yeah, and this gets to, and I'll end with this because I got to get going. Here's the thing: the insurance company blames the government, and the government blames the insurance companies, right? And most of the public blames the insurance companies more than the government because it's easier because they have profits, right? Well, the government has profits too. They're called they're called tax revenues. The government's in the money business too. They're both two sides of the same coin. Let's be adults. It's both their faults, though. They're taking advantage of the bad regulations, but they're also having to navigate nonsensical, insane regulation that the government keeps putting upon them. It's both of them. And until you fix both of them at the same time, there's going to be a push-pull there that there's a tug-of-war over healthcare, and it's the American people that are getting used as the rope between government and insurance companies. And one of them is not more benevolent than the other one. Just sorry, it's not true.
Would it help
it's not true.
Would it help to have experienced healthcare, like doctors and administrators, involved in this conversation, or should it all be MBAs?
Yeah, but who the hell wants that job? So you're going to take a surgeon that's making mid to high six figures, and you're going to give them the highest GS-15 job, which is like $160,000 a year. Plus, it sucks. Plus, everybody's going to hate you, and your reputation will be ruined among your peers for the rest of your life. Yeah, that's enticing. I bet they'll jump all over. The best people are going to jump all over that bad boy.
Well, hopefully it wouldn't be a full-time job. It would be more like a leadership role to a team that, you know, when it's time to go swat people down in Congress or whatever committee, then you bring in your big guns and the big doctor with the MD who's reviewed everything and can say with authority, y'all are being stupid, here's a better idea.
So you're saying, like, for like things like infectious disease, we should have a leader in that field stay in that office for 20 some years so that when there's a crisis, they'll be able to reason with the American people, right?
Oh, wait. Did that movie already play?
Yeah. It didn't go well.
Man.
The highest paid federal employee in America, by the way.
So maybe we need...
And he's basically a pariah to most of the American people right now.
Maybe we need,
like, how did that go?
Maybe we need Del Toro to write a new screenplay for the next movie, and we can try this again.
I think we need to quit making movies. I think we need to just let them make it a prestige limited edition series. I think it'll work. It's like Star Wars. Quit making movies. Go make the series. The series are way better.
And they're cheaper to make and make more money. Get out of here.
Great Herd Tell today. Do not miss it. We had a hell of a week on Herd Tell. Like, we just killed it this week. Twice on Sunday is going to be like easy to do. It's going to be hard to figure out how to cut that bad boy down because we had so much good stuff this week. But great stuff, man.
I envy not that job.
Man, already got Mondays ready to go. Got Jericho Hill back talking inflation and the GDP number on Monday. Working on some other stuff. We just build on success over success. And thank you to everybody listening. The new app looks fantastic. However you're listening or watching, we greatly appreciate it. I did some other media I'm going to try to put out this weekend. I did a thing for the Times of London. If you don't know the Times, the London Sunday Times, that's the most influential newspaper in the world.
Wow.
Got to be on Times Radio with a friend of ours over there, buddy of ours named Caleb McDonald, who I'm going to try to get on one of our programs at some point because he has the greatest radio voice in the history of radio, and he's like 20 years old. It's disgusting. But yeah, they got to do some Times Radio. I just did Fox's Car Wash again yesterday. We're building on success here, man, and it's all going well, and it's all because of you, and I appreciate your help, my friend.
Hey, I'm glad I brought you on board. I'm glad you were, you accepted. I mean, it's having good content is 90% of it, and between you and Yael, I'm just basking in the shadow of greatness.
Yeah, we noticed.
With that in mind, we're going to let our friend go.
Take care, bud.
And I will see you probably in the next day or so. And
yeah.
Let's see. You're up in, you're a little north. I was going to say I'm going to be at the Mad Boar on Saturday night, but that's still a bit of a trip, isn't it?
I gotta go to Virginia this weekend for a birthday party. So,
oh, that's horrible.
Virginia this weekend. Oh no, it's the I call her my practice grandbaby. She's having her birthday. They actually lived with us for a couple of months on and off different times, but adult kids, what do you do? I just love her to death. She calls me Opa. I get to go play with her for a little bit, and then weekend after that, my actual child is graduating high school, so that's going to eat up that week.
Nice.
So it's gonna, and then the weekend after that's Memorial Day weekend. I'm going to be doing. I don't want to jinx it. I get to do a childhood dream bucket list achievement unlocked thing for
leveling up
for Memorial Day weekend, probably that Thursday or Friday. We're still getting it lined up.
I hope there's good food.
Well, no, but we might loop the big talker in with it. We'll see. I got to talk to him about the legalities of that, but really something cool coming up. Nobody else is going to care, but I'm excited about it.
Nice.
But we're doing a media thing that week that I've wanted to do since I was a kid, and we'll tell you more about that coming down the road. But you have a good weekend, buddy. I'll talk to you over the weekend because we got business to do. But we'll see you, if no sooner, on Monday.
All right, man. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Yes, sir. Take care.
Go do it. Go do it. And let's see, with that in mind, I think I need to hit the right buttons. We need to take a bit of a break here. I hope you don't mind. And we're going to do some news and weather, and then we'll pontificate for a while, opine as we so desire. And then from there, we will be joined by C.B. Johnson from The Voice in the Pen to talk about the new endeavor encouraging local singers-songwriters to get involved. Yeah. So don't go nowhere. As the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad, will be right back after all of this.
Keeping Whiteville informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.
I'm a medical assistant. I'm the first person you see at the doctor's office. I love what I do. I never have the same day twice, and my job is stable, flexible, and important. And I have options. Medical assistants are in demand. I can work in a variety of healthcare settings, including specialty physicians' offices, hospitals, and in any healthcare facility. I'm a role model for my kids and a trusted healthcare professional at work. I got my start at CFCC, and you can too. Visit cfcc.edu/medical assisting and get started today.
Folks, the sad truth of it is most of what we're seeing in the news cycle is just noise, and it's recycled noise at that. Nothing informative, nothing that actually helps us discern the times that we live in. That's why we started doing Heard Tell. Every morning right here on Big Talker Network, 7 a.m. with a replay at 3 p.m., we talk and discuss the issues of the day, culture and politics with knowledgeable guests, no yelling, no caterwauling, just grown folk talk about the issues that matter. Join me, Andrew Donaldson, every weekday morning for Heard Tell.
Hello, I'm Matt Bennett with WWAY News. The Bishop of the Diocese of Raleigh made a visit to the Cape Fear yesterday to celebrate a multi-million-dollar expansion project for a Catholic church in eastern Pender County. All Saints Catholic Church in Hampstead has raised more than $3 million to build a new sanctuary. The project includes a 750-seat church. The bishop performed a blessing of the grounds where the new sanctuary will be built. A major lawsuit has been settled out of court. The suit was filed after a nursing home resident was allegedly beaten so badly in his sleep by another resident, he died of his injuries days later. There was concern over whether the lawsuit would be able to continue through court due to a COVID law giving healthcare facilities immunity from safety and staffing related to lawsuits. Family attorney Jim Lee saying the matter has been resolved satisfactory to all parties. The FDA says it is limiting the emergency use authorization of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine to adults for whom other vaccines aren't appropriate or accessible, and to adults who wouldn't otherwise get vaccinated. The FDA says the move is due to the risk of an extremely rare but dangerous blood clotting condition associated with the J&J vaccine called TTS. The FDA says 15% of those cases have been fatal. And one North Carolina educator reached for the stars after accomplishing a dream he'd worked toward for more than 50 years. Professor Jim Kitchen at UNC Chapel Hill accomplished his dream of going to space a month ago on a Blue Origin rocket flight. Kitchen, who has visited every single country recognized by the United Nations, remembers applying for this expedition dozens of times a week for months and says what he saw and felt has changed him forever. For more on these stories, you can head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Matt Bennett. Have a great day.
Happy Friday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. Expecting a warm one here in the Cape Fear as our high temperatures climb into the upper 80s and the low 90s away from the coast. Coastal areas will squeeze into the lower 80s this afternoon with south winds gusting as high as 20 to 25 miles per hour. But heading into the evening hours tonight, we can expect a few strong to severe thunderstorms with the primary concern being gusty winds. Coverage of showers should come to an end after midnight and our temperatures fall down to the middle and upper 60s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
Hey everyone, Ben Hawkins here with Cross Country Mortgage. Rates are still at historic lows, and there has never been a better time to purchase your dream home or refinance your existing. With over 300 loan products including conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, renovation, and jumbo, we are certain we have the right loan product for you and your family. Call me today to be pre-qualified to make the offer on your next dream home. 910-352-3373 or visit my website at lendwithben.com.
To protect her home and family in a disaster, Karen was willing to wade through water, mud, and insurance paperwork.
Yeah, I can do this.
You go, Karen! By simply understanding and updating what her insurance covers and doesn't cover now, she'll be better prepared no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
I am State Farm Agent Rob Renz, and I want to help you get to a better place. Visit us online at ilminsurance.com. That's ilminsurance.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
It's Friday. It must be the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad, right here on the Big Talker Network. Please visit our website at bigtalker.live, where the schedule of content can be visited, and you get to see when all of our favorite programming, your favorite programming, everyone's favorite programming from the Big Talker. And if you, see, all the material content is available at your fingertips, video and audio. And we also highly recommend you getting the Big Talker app for your smartphone. See, iOS and Android devices. Yeah, it's, I can't describe it. It's sexy. Anything and everything you want at your fingertips. It's pretty amazing. Just boom, right there. It's really cool. Yael did a great job, who himself authors and co-hosts with David Clement the Consumer Choice Radio that premieres at 10 a.m. on Saturdays, and runs, you know, the replays throughout the week following the Asylum. There's an email link on there on the on all of it, I think, to send any comments, questions, concerns, critiques, or questions you may have, so that we can improve our station and get more involved, right? And when I do that, people tend to send me messages. Avail ourselves to the public, because we are the Big Talker. And whether you agree with any or all of it is irrelevant. The fact is, we bring it to you. A reminder, again, today at 3 o'clock at the New Hanover County GOP at 829 South Carr Avenue in Wilmington, North Carolina, is the Family First Education Roundtable. The NC GOP knows that North Carolina families are focused on ensuring a sound education for their children. That means school choice, parental rights, a focus on the fundamentals, and ensuring that reading and math shape the curriculum. Local and state Republican leaders join with the community, with community advocates, to discuss these education issues at the NCGOP Family First Education Roundtable in Wilmington. Come hear what parents and community leaders care most about when it comes to education as they discuss bold Republican solutions for putting family first. Again, that's today at 3 o'clock at the New Hanover County GOP on South Carr Avenue. The NCGOP Chairman Michael Watley, Vice Chair Susan Mills, Congressman David Rouser, Senator Michael Lee, New Hanover County Board of Education member Pete Wildeboer, and a local mom and education advocate, Chelsea Cooley. Let's see, yeah. Another event tomorrow. The Cape Fear River Watch. I got to bring it up again. For some reason, my computer completely forgot about it. The plastic pandemic. 8 o'clock to 10:30 tomorrow. The first in-person seminar since the beginning of the panic. We can't wait to share coffee and pancakes with you at our office for the May 1st Saturday seminar. Cape Fear River Watch staff members Rob Clark and Audrey Dunn will be discussing the glowing plastics crisis, including plastics' dire environmental impacts from production to disposal or lack thereof, as well as Cape Fear River Watch's work to combat plastic pollution in our area. Check out Audrey and Rob's bios, and of course get all the information, CapeFearRiverWatch.org. Besides, I don't need any help looking stupid. And we are extremely grateful for the people that are, we are growing, it's just a little underground idea, and I can't help but have a little bit of, I don't know if it's anxiety or just anxiousness, but many of the success stories that, the American dream success stories, many of them have a common element. Where did Nike get started? Where did Apple get started? Where did the Big Talker Network get started? Oh yeah, a garage. So yeah, I'm kind of excited to be building all of this out of my garage because it's somewhere where I can come in, and I think this is part of the secret that wasn't really. Maybe it was. I don't know. Wozniak probably can attest to this more than anybody else on the planet. But when you have it in your garage, you can tinker, right? It's not like when you have a job in your office or your lab or your, whatever environment where you do your thing is away from your home. But if it's in your garage and you get an idea at 2 o'clock in the morning, you can just shuffle out in your pajamas to the garage and tinker, right? I can't call this a job anymore. I have to call this something of a hobby out of control that ties a lot of the interests, curiosities, and strengths that I have into one little bundle that I get to play with, kind of like the mechanical Legos. I can't even think of the name of it, which I think, it's like robotics or whatever for kids these days. Just, it's something to play with, but I can do stuff with it, right? Shows like All Things Brunswick, while I'm not the most staunch conservative person, I can support that program and produce it at a high level because they support what I'm doing and I support what they're doing. They the biggest part of the GOP headquarters in Brunswick County that I have experienced so far is educating and informing voters. Do I agree with everything that they're trying to espouse? Not necessarily. I don't need to. I have learned to say, okay, this I can support, this I have to just disagree with and be okay with it. It's really crazy how freedom works. And that's where I can turn around and do something like The Voice in the Pen, which from the far right probably looks like the most progressive liberal thing ever. I don't think it is. I think it's art, right? And I think there's room for the discussion of politics, the discussion of healthcare, and the discussion of art all on the same platform and all available on the same platform. Part of the human experience is, growth through experience. Even if those experiences are unusual or new to you. And one of the things I like to point out as the impetus of why I support The Voice in the Pen and other endeavors like that throughout my career is because every song that you know the lyrics to and like to tap and sing along to had to get written. And that's what this group of people are singer-songwriters that are writing the next song you're going to be tapping your toes and singing along with. But why wait until they're already selling millions of records, which, that model is pretty much vaporized. Whatever it is that turns them into the superstars or whatever, get in on it now. Find out, where it came from. I mean, I'd been a David Bowie fan. This is a fun little sidebar. I'd been a fan of David Bowie for a very long time. And one day I found out and heard some of his early demos. And it's amazing. You can still hear the same person in a very raw, almost candid environment. Not a proper studio with all the trappings and the appropriate, quiet on the set and all. The guy's chirping into a dollar store tape recorder, right? And, but it's there. That magic is there. And so far with every show that I've done with The Voice in the Pen, you can hear that magic. It may not be every song, it may not be every performance, but it's there. That spark is definitely there. And every show has it. And I think everybody should get involved. And that's going to be a conversation we have here in about 15 minutes, I guess. Something like that. And it's a pretty exciting endeavor. In fact, for those of early birds who enjoy listening to something that's not about the world burning down, you can tune into the Big Talker from midnight to 7 a.m. and enjoy all the performances so far recorded by The Voice in the Pen. And eventually that's going to become a rotation of all the current performances. Because it is an ongoing series, that we're going to develop an amazing catalog of material. Because there are a lot of good songwriters and a lot of good songs in this area that it's not as pressing of an issue as, say, healthcare, but I do feel it's as critical of a component to the human experience. Because why else are we slaving away from whatever hour? We're trading our hours for life, for money. And to spend the time that we're not dedicating to making money to some sort of artistic or exploratory of some expression, and to appreciate those expressions and sort of relate them into our own lives. I mean, that's why it's amazing to go to museums, art museums. When I got to Chicago on a radio contest thingy, one of the first things we did was we cruised right into the two of the biggest museums I'd ever been in my life. I mean, that was like 4 or 5 hours that we just wandered and just in awe of all the expressions that everybody has had over the centuries and how they aren't uncommon to the rest of us. And how this art, all of this was still art, right? It was either paintings, sculptures, multimedia, where you're using cloth and paint and pencil and crayon and whatever else. But every one of them had, it became easier to get in touch with my response to that art. And I feel like it helped me mature as a human being with a common experience. Where I can now look at the art and say, wow, okay, I can see what he's saying, whether I agree with it or not, or have a positive or negative personal reaction to it. I can understand it. I can understand where it came from. And that part of the spirit is not unique to me or him. And if it is not unique to me or the artist, maybe it's not unique to the rest of the world. Maybe other people have experienced the same thing. Is that out of order? Is that probable? And how can this help us? That would be the other question. Does it help us grow? We take in a lot of information, but do we let our brains rest, as Dan Roman from Full Circle Fitness pointed out on Wednesday? Right? For him, it's lifting weights. You don't really have to think about it. And that's where your brain just gets a chance to effectively lay back and have a daiquiri. And sometimes for the performers, it's actually stressful, right? And once the performance is over and they have that exhalation at the end, I do it after every show in the morning. Because you set yourself to a task, you completed the task, and that sigh of relief, that done. Did it. Nailed it. Killed it. Whatever the phraseology you want to use. But it's certainly a sense of celebration, a sense of, achievement, right? And these are huge. I think that's what encourages us to keep going, to be involved with one another. Because if we feel a little bit better about our place in the world, I think we feel a little bit better about helping those whose place in the world may be a little challenged from our own. Maybe it's the poor lady that can't find her car spiller tank. Or the poor kid who's got his first flat tire on the side of the road and is just beside himself, can't quite focus. There's any number of ways that, maybe helping somebody hold the door open. It can be as simple as that. And if we feel a little bit better about ourselves and our own lives and the validations of our experiences, we don't have to go to such ridiculous extremes to get our rocks off, as it were, however physically, mentally, spiritually that we need. If we become more attached or reconnected to the humanity around us, we start to see that there's a mutual existence commonality to us. And from that, at least this would be my extrapolation, we start to respect one another enough that when we look to elect our leadership, we start to think in terms of our community and not an us and them mentality. I mean, there's all kind of criticisms of the two-party system, but if we can get past that as human beings and say, all right, at the municipal level, we need to start electing humans again. I don't want to elect a Democrat or a Republican necessarily. I want to elect somebody who gives a damn and is willing to do what it takes to get there. Not always is it pretty. And the whole term of compromise and stewardship need to be a little bit higher on the priority list. And one of the things that I don't know what kind of conversation this would lead to, but the separation of church and state. Right? The Cape Fear River doesn't care about the legislation and any belief structure other than the fact that the river was poisoned and needs to be cleaned up. The legalities of who's responsible becomes a burden in this process. We know who's responsible. Why can't we get a conviction or an indictment? What's the holdup? What's the game over here? So think about it. While everybody else is distracted by this leaked 3-month-old voided, superseded document, right? And the stock market apparently took a pretty serious tank. We're not supposed to be paying attention to any of that. But all of this goes away if we start paying attention and respecting one another again. I think our education system would naturally bring back the civics courses. In fact, I would be willing to trade most of the controversially mired sex and biology courses for civics courses. How's that? Maybe that's a little too weird an idea. Because if we start understanding more about how things operate around us, we'll be more interested in fixing that. And one of the things we've noticed in our area, and not in a good way, that communities are watching one another and responding appropriately. Carolina Beach parking. Curry Beach is now charging for parking. The one in Brunswick County, was it Pleasure Island? One of them. Now starts charging for parking. But I can almost guarantee you that none of them are going to try and do year-round parking, not after the backlash that Carolina Beach experienced. So most of these other beaches are going to say, yeah, we know where the line is. It's already been tested there. That's called precedent. It's not a law. Each town is able to do whatever they want with it, and a lot of it is privatized. And as adjustments are made in other communities, you can bet the other communities, surrounding communities, are going to pay attention to that and adopt policies in parallel. Not necessarily lockstep, but certainly some sort of parallel, because we build on our successes. And why not? Isn't that what this is about? Isn't that how we grow and improve? Can't we do it as independent municipalities and communities? And use that as the living example to sort of nudge the state into that sort of mentality, and then from there the nation. And it starts with us individually not throwing our trash on the ground, not having reactionary explosions everywhere we go. Right? I mean, these confrontations at Walmart, we find humorous. These are scary indicators of where our culture is. And on so many levels, you can call it respect, you can call it, privacy. There's so many areas that are laid bare for us to reflect on. We laugh at it. Oh, look at that poor bastard. What's causing this, right? Is it in the water? And and we spend, I think Dr. Cahoon would agree with me that his awareness of how the striped bass population is behaving in the Cape Fear has been studied with greater interest and passion than the own decay of our civilization. from a social, and certainly, as Andrew has pointed out, the social media has been a component. But the explosion of our population has diluted our sense of community to a point that we don't know the person across the street or next door. 330 million strangers, and the only friends we have that are echo chambers in our social media, further dividing us into little subdivisions. Mentally. They already did it in our housing, right? Gentrification and ghettos and public housing and low-income I mean, there's these segmentations. But now we're doing it to ourselves without realizing that these echo chambers and segmentations are actually prisons for our minds. If you don't believe me, look at the Russian state media right now. They don't realize that they are being fed misinformation because of its presentation. That's how we do it in America now as well. We've gotten away from the sense of community, and we now depend on these brightly colored three-letter networks to trust. And we don't even know the person next door. But we're going to hate them based on something in a virtual world, like a chat room or a Facebook group, because of their religion or the way they dress or their relationship or whatever basis you want to do this on. We don't see them as a person who, puts on socks and has to get naked to take a shower. And how do we draw these components together? I think, for me, arts is a great way to start. So I support it as best I can. And we'll have more on that when we come back here on The Big Talker. We're going to take a bit of a break. And when we come back, we'll have our friend C.B. Johnson from The Voice in the Pen. Sorry, I about fell off my stool here trying to get to the mixer. So we'll be right back on The Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad. Don't go nowhere.
Hello, I'm Matt Bennett with WWAY News. The Bishop of the Diocese of Raleigh made a visit to the Cape Fear yesterday to celebrate a multi-million-dollar expansion project for a Catholic church in eastern Pender County. All Saints Catholic Church in Hampstead has raised more than $3 million to build a new sanctuary. The project includes a 750-seat church. The bishop performed a blessing of the grounds where the new sanctuary will be built. A major lawsuit has been settled out of court. The suit was filed after a nursing home resident was allegedly beaten so badly in his sleep by another resident, he died of his injuries days later. There was concern over whether the lawsuit would be able to continue through court due to a COVID law giving healthcare facilities immunity from safety and staffing related to lawsuits. Family attorney Jim Lee is saying the matter has been resolved satisfactory to all parties. The FDA says it is limiting the emergency use authorization of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine to adults for whom other vaccines aren't appropriate or accessible, and to adults who wouldn't otherwise get vaccinated. The FDA says the move is due to the risk of an extremely rare but dangerous blood clotting condition associated with the J&J vaccine called TTS. The FDA says 15% of those cases have been fatal. And one North Carolina educator reached for the stars after accomplishing a dream he'd worked toward for more than 50 years. Professor Jim Kitchen at UNC Chapel Hill accomplished his dream of going to space a month ago on a Blue Origin rocket flight. Kitchen, who has visited every single country recognized by the United Nations, remembers applying for this expedition dozens of times a week for months, and says what he saw and felt has changed him forever. For more on these stories, you can head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Matt Bennett. Have a great day.
Happy Friday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. Expecting a warm one here in the Cape Fear as our high temperatures climb into the upper 80s and the low 90s away from the coast. Coastal areas will squeeze into the lower 80s this afternoon with south winds gusting as high as 20 to 25 miles per hour. But heading into the evening hours tonight, we can expect a few strong to severe thunderstorms with the primary concern being gusty winds. Coverage of showers should come to an end after midnight and our temperatures fall down to the middle and upper 60s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAY-TV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
The Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association serves as the advocate for the building industry, advancing professionalism and promoting community involvement. We are a positive force for responsible growth while protecting property rights and the privilege of home ownership. 3 out of every 5 jobs is touched in some manner by construction in our region. Growth generates jobs, maintains our property values, and builds and updates our infrastructure. Join us Friday mornings for the Construction Connection with the Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association and the Big Talker FM.
O'Leary's Automotive Repair has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
Folks, the sad truth of it is most of what we're seeing in the news cycle is just noise, and it's recycled noise at that. Nothing informative, nothing that actually helps us discern the times that we live in. That's why we started doing Heard Tell. Every morning right here on Big Talker Network, 7 a.m. with a replay at 3 p.m., we talk and discuss the issues of the day, culture and politics with knowledgeable guests, no yelling, no caterwauling, just grown folk talk about the issues that matter. Join me, Andrew Donaldson, every weekday morning for Heard Tell.
Back. We are back on the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad, right here on the Big Talker Network. Please visit the BigTalker.live website where you can see our schedule, get more information on the shows that are available. And what's really cool is I'm excited to announce or introduce my friend C.B. Johnson from The Voice in the Pen, my co-conspirator in such a bizarre and outlandish idea, where we bring singers and songwriters together. Welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks, TK. How you doing today?
Good, good. So, where's this Voice in the Pen idea coming from?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that it comes from a lot of time for me running open mics, and I'm grateful to be partnered with Emily Burdett and you in producing this show. But for me, my background, I think input into it is I started running open mics here in Wilmington in about 2014 or so, and have always loved original music. And one of the things that I started noticing in the open mics is if you give it time and space, you get to see these beautiful musical moments that happen. Sometimes they're very rehearsed and still have a huge impact, and sometimes they're very impromptu. But the Voice in the Pen really is all about creating an environment where those moments can happen for the musicians, for the audience, and it's really a celebration of original music. That's really the goal of it. As songwriters, covers are fine. It's a musical education and it's a lesson, but it's not your own music. And so we want to give artists a platform and an opportunity to present their original music, to hone their craft, to get better at what they're doing, to network with other musicians and play with other musicians.
And this is one of the things I enjoy most about the singer-songwriter cooperatives that I've been a part of for a while is any song that you know was once written by somebody in their living room, or, not every song started out as a studio hit.
I know a bunch of people that wish it were not that way, or wish it were that way, depending on how you want to phrase it. But they do wish it was just immediately a studio hit. But no, I think you're You're totally right. There was that one guy from Korea that did like Gangnam Style or something like that became like a satirical hit immediately, but that's not what we're talking about.
And Kiss did that with I Was Made for Loving You. It was a joke bet where Ace Frehley, I think it was joking he could write a disco song in 30 minutes or less, and it became one of their biggest hits.
Yeah, but I don't think he could have written that song in 30 minutes or less if he hadn't written probably 1,000 other songs. Some of them certainly horrible based on my experience as a songwriter. It's like I write something sometimes and I'm like, nope, I'm glad I got it out of me, but that doesn't need to be consumed by anybody else.
And it's a parallel, the development, as you mentioned, that some of these guys, it's the first time they've been on a stage.
Mm-hmm.
And to give them that platform, I mean, I'm showing some of the performances, videos from from Waterline Brewery, the Wednesday night gigs, that it gives them the experience that they can sort of use this as their testing ground to sort of get their performance together, get the nerves out of them, that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another thing, kind of going back to the open mic component of things, depending on where a quote unquote open mic is, you're going to be performing it on stage, but it's not necessarily to an attentive audience, so for some songwriters, if their style is more subtle and soft, nobody's really paying attention to them in a loud, noisy bar.
Right.
And it's a whole different thing. Like I think in a loud, noisy bar, you can hide. You don't have to be the center of attention. You're often background music, and that's one of the things I think that we're actively doing is making the artist the center of attention, whether it's at our shows at Waterline or at our shows at Live at Ted's. You have to be at a place where you're comfortable being listened to, and this is a way to step into that process. Now I'll say this as well, though, with open mics, one of the negatives and downsides is that often the host is being compensated for showing up, setting up their gear, running sound, and doing all those things, and that's fine. I have no negative complaints or thoughts about that. But sometimes musicians, particularly people that are really well practiced and experienced, that come into an open mic to play it, they feel, taken advantage of a little bit in a way, and they'll avoid open mics because there's no value to them necessarily. They're like, why is this, sound person or host getting paid, and I'm showing up and doing the work of playing the music? And so that's another thing that we have really focused on with the Voice and Pen, is to provide value to the artists. And so you've nailed down a couple of the value items. One of them is stage experience with an attentive audience. But a couple other things are the fact that we live stream and record both audio and video, and have professional photography. So if you come play at the Voice and the Pen, what you're gonna wind up with is a video of your performance. It's posted to YouTube that you can share and post around and use to promote yourself. We also record directly from the soundboard. So you're gonna, if you're up there with your acoustic guitar and your voice, you're going to get a 2-track recording that you can then take to an engineer of your choosing, or if you're, like a garage band or a Logic wizard, take it in there and put some effects on it. And if your performance was satisfactory to you, you might be in a position where you've got something you could even upload to Spotify and publish a song. So our focus is really around the artists. And I got to say, last night I went to a music show for a local band and was talking with their keyboard player, who's phenomenal, a guy named Joel Lamb, an amazing musician and a great human. And he was so excited about the Voice and Pen and what we're doing. And that's a huge compliment coming from a guy that has toured professionally, coming from a guy that still plays professionally with 5 or 6 different acts in town and is a musician and songwriter absolutely in his own right, to be excited about that and wanting to participate and lend support to it. So we're grateful for these types of things beginning to happen for us.
And it's taken a lot of groundwork from the beginning. I understand Emily and Jared started this a while back. How long has it been in existence?
I think since August of last year. I played the second one when it was at the Real Cafe upstairs. And I mean, I'll be honest as well, as we were transitioning from Jarrett and Emily co-hosting to Emily and me co-hosting, one of the things that we started to look at was, what venue is the right venue. And we kind of came up with a list of criteria. One level load in was important.
Yes.
Free parking, right. Free parking was important. And a supportive partner from the venue was important. And we identified a bunch of venues like that in the downtown Wilmington area. And one of the things that we found pretty quickly is there are some folks that were definitely naysayers. Like, oh, we've tried this before, Wilmington. This will never work. Blah, blah. There's just not enough songwriters. And that is factually inaccurate. And also because of the fact that we're doing so much social media promotion and live streaming and all the benefits that we give to the agents, we're actually in a position of having people from Raleigh and Charlotte and Myrtle Beach that are reaching out to us that want to drive to Wilmington and play here. And I got to say, one day we really want to be able to compensate our artists for that. In the meantime, it's a bit of a trade. You come and do your songs and expose us to your music. We give you video and photography and audio back. But as we grow our influence and our reach and our social media presence, it would be great to be able to offer some honorariums to musicians that are coming to play.
Yeah. And it is a pretty good deal for the musicians because they're getting multi-platform exposure, which, that's the dreaded term. Hey, we can pay you an exposure. But in our case, it is, I think, a pretty solid trade that you're going to have all kinds of, we have the radio stream going, the internet radio of Voice and Pen.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the Big Talker every morning. It's on your fingertips if you have YouTube, right? Or some of them are on the Big Talker app as well. Just kind of a little hidden right now. We're working on those developments. But it's a growing interest and passion that really brings a lot to that life.
I totally agree. And I mean, the kind of exposure that we're talking about, in terms of the social media presence and online internet presence is a completely different kind of exposure than when the new wine bar down the street says, hey, you can come play for tips and it'll be good for your exposure. And they don't have an audience to expose you to. So I think that gets into an ongoing debate amongst a lot of musicians and songwriters in particular is the balance between how many covers do you play, how many originals do you play?
Right.
If you go to a club that you're playing that has an established audience and they are bringing you in to entertain their audience, what does that pay structure look like versus, playing at a club that wants you to come in and play and bring your audience to them? Because that's, a lot of times when I feel like when venues are saying, hey, come play here for the exposure, what they really mean, or you're a pretty successful musician, maybe if you come play here for free, we can get some exposure of our new venue. You can drag your audience.
To your audience, right. To our to your particular fan base, all 6 of them or whatever. And of course, the other component to the performances of the Voice and the Pen is that it's more than one at a time, so that there's a combination of sounds for the individuals that are there to perform as well as the people that are there to see their friend perform, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense, and we see, 2 or 3 different types of audience members. I think there are probably 4 types of audience members that show up at Waterline. There's the crew that is the Waterline regulars or that have responded to Waterline and are coming to Waterline to have beers. And that's great. And then they get some exposure to the local music scene, might hear something they like. And then the next level is sort of local music lovers and people that are already engaged with the Voice and Pen that may not be musicians at all, but they just love to come and hear and listen and support and participate in those magical moments when they happen. And then in addition to that, you've got musicians that want to perform at the Voice and Pen or who have performed, and then of course the folks that are there for that show that night. And it's a beautiful environment. I think it like reminds me in like a little miniature way, when you see, and I'm not going to remember the name of it, but like some of the larger music awards, not necessarily the Grammys, but I think I watched a show one time where Bruce Springsteen was getting an award. I think it was like a government award or something like that, or a congressional award. And, Eddie Vedder was on stage covering Bruce Springsteen. Bruce Springsteen is in the audience. All these other musicians are in the audience as well. So obviously we don't have 20,000 people at our shows yet. But
give us a couple of months.
Give us, we'll be maybe a week or two. Should be good.
Now, for some of the information and reach, we're still a bit young in the process, but where can people find more information about us right now? Like what social medias and contacts and such?
Yeah, so first and foremost, Instagram and Facebook. That's where you'll see most of the promotional material that announces upcoming shows and when those are happening. Next beyond that is YouTube. That's where our video vault basically is. And it's also where we live stream. And then beyond that, we're into, I don't know, I guess what I would maybe call third-party distributors, sort of. So like we are grateful to have space on the Big Talker. And, that's not, the reason I say third-party is it's not branded per se to the Voice and Pen. We don't own our little segment of that outlet, but those are the big places. So yeah, Instagram, Voice in the Pen, at Voice in the Pen. Also Facebook, just Google, search on Facebook, Voice and the THE Pen. And then check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Voice and the Pen. And you'll find all of our information out there floating around on the interwebs.
Nice. And it's been fun playing some of the videos alongside the interview here. Some of them from the Waterline that's been enormously supportive. I think Rob has always had a real good connection with the local music scene and been very respectful of it. And of course the partnership with Live at Ted's, Trent's involvement has been, he's the engineer behind the album for the Voice and the Pen songwriters. Tell me about that project, because I'm still new to that one too.
Yeah, sure. I want to talk about Waterline a little bit and Trent and Live at Ted. So Waterline is an awesome music venue in Wilmington. They've done a beautiful job of creating their own audience around really, I think, three things: beer, community, and music. And they do a lot of other stuff there as well.
Good points. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they have markets, they have all sorts of things. They have great beer. Not that I can drink it. I have celiac disease. I keep poking, maybe they'll make a gluten-free brew one day. We'll get to that. That's a different conversation. But they're really they have two different areas, two different stages, if you will, in their brewery for music. And we're grateful to be in there. You can feel it, when you walk in the back room, particularly. There have been so many amazing bands on that stage. Gosh, we've had Randy McQuay has played there. He's IBC champion from 2015. You used to tech for him, right?
Whom? I'm sorry.
Did I catch you in the middle of doing some technical things?
Yeah, I'm trying to bring up more of our performers because you're giving good information, and I trust you to abide by most of FCC's regulations. So now I can bring up more performances from Megan Johnson at Waterline as a sample of what that stage looks like and how much work they've done to accommodate us.
They've done a beautiful job of accommodating us. And so we're chatting Waterline, and so beer, community, music, they've got it. They've got a great room. We are really, it's an honor to play music there. And then we were talking about Trent Harrison as well, and so I can't talk enough about him either. So Trent owns the venue Live at Ted's, which is a Woodsong certified listening room. There are a few of those around the country. And he is also the owner and head engineer, well, really head of all things at Hourglass Studios. And, Trent has been a mainstay in the Wilmington music scene for 8 or 10 years now. And I remember when I first met Trent, it's because I won some recording time at the Goat and Compass open mic, which used to be sort of the hub of original music and open mic stuff and songwriting stuff here in Wilmington. And I won the recording time like 3 times. So I've gotten to work quite a bit with Trent in his studio, and it's super cool to have these partnerships and these kind of people that, I think most importantly, first and foremost, have the passion. They have a passion for great original music. They have the experience technically and market-wise to really contribute at a high level to what we're doing. And then they're just great people. They're enjoyable.
That helps.
Yeah, it does. So yeah, that's kind of a rundown on that. The Voice and Pen album. Let's talk about that for a second. So we, Emily, really, and I kind of came in the midst of this project, but Emily put together a Kickstarter fund. We raised over $4,000 to create an all original music album here, and we're in the process of recording that. I think Wes Sayer and Emily Elaton just were in the studio recording their song for that. So I think we're going to have, it's like 12 or 14 original songs on this album from different Voice in the Pen alumni, so to speak, that have played our show before. And the goal is to get the original music out there for the people and for the artists. So be on the lookout. I think that'll drop sometime, I'm guessing June, July timeframe, once we're done recording it and we go through the mastering process and everything. But we're grateful to be working with Trent. We're also really grateful for every single person that contributed financially to make that Kickstarter dream a reality.
And that's community supported.
Totally community supported, 100% community supported. The artists that are on the album contributed money as well, but so did fans, so did family members, so did people, maybe random audience members that came to a Voice in the Pen session and saw what we were doing and heard about it and scanned the QR code and sent some money to the Kickstarter. So,
right.
Yeah, it's been an experience to watch this thing grow. We did a benefit show for it at Mad Cats. So shout out to those cats down at Mad Cats down at Monkey Junction, corner of Carolina Beach Road and College Road. They got a beautiful venue, a great PA. If you're a musician, you should hit them up about playing there. If you like playing through a nice PA, and if you don't like playing through a nice PA, DM me. We should have a conversation.
Lots of experiences there among all of us.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So that's I'm showing right now the Ari Papalardo gig when his string broke in the middle of the show, and he just kept going like a soldier, man. It was awesome.
Is that the one where he's in the gold suit?
Yep.
Yeah, I love that one. That was
it's like total Elvis night. It was awesome.
Yeah, you got to show the part of the clip where he lays down on the stage at the end. That's kind of funny. I don't know if you heard what he said. He's like, "Oh my God, I'm getting too old for this. Can't get back up. Somebody help me."
No, right now he's garroting himself with the broken guitar string. I mean, it's always fun, and the spark of that creativity that makes everybody's got a favorite song.
Mm-hmm.
And it started with somebody writing that song, and what's cool is that this is an opportunity to get in before they become, too big for their own britches, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that spark is sort of what helps keep the community driving. Our sense of humanity, our sense of community can only be fed by arts. And I think it takes original arts specifically, because it's our own expressions that we share, that we realize that we're not alone in whatever it is we're experiencing and whatever it is we use to express it, whether it's crayons or clay or a guitar. They're all needed so that we have more of a connection to the humanity around us and become more inclusive inherently. That's a scary word these days, but to be more aware of the people around us.
Yeah. So there, I guess people ask me sometimes, like, what do I do? And a lot of different things, but they pretty much all center around live event production and ultimately art. And one of my organizations that I work with that I really dearly love is Kookalura Film Foundation. And I'm bringing that up, not just for the shameless plug, but also to talk about a sticker that I've seen on the side of a toolbox in the storage area and tool center, kind of in the back of our facility.
Mm-hmm.
And the sticker says, everything is art. There is no not art. And, I think, and I love that, because I think, sometimes we say art and what immediately comes to mind is like the Mona Lisa or, Degas or
Starry Night.
Starry Night, Van Gogh or whatever. Pick a visual painter, artist, and that's what I think comes to mind for a lot of people. And then of course there's the concept of music and film as art as well. But everything is art. I think if you go to a live music performance and you watch the musicians performing, clearly art. But you know what? So are the technicians that are making things happen behind the scenes, the folks that show up 2 or 3 hours before the show, and I think it's a given that, musicians we're all gonna make some mistakes when we play, when we perform. And the audience may or may not notice those mistakes depending on how intense or severe they are and what our reaction to them is. But, the other side of that coin is that the technicians, man, it's very noticeable when a technician makes a mistake, when you get ear piercing feedback. And this is me getting on my soapbox about the artistry of technical performance, and so it is an art, it's a science, it's both of the things kind of combined together, but so is music. And so, art is everywhere, and I think art will save us. Hopefully, I think that there is space for that to bring us together. And I also think that through art, it is what forces us into inclusion, because just because you don't like a piece of art doesn't make it not art. And just because a piece of art makes you uncomfortable doesn't mean that it shouldn't exist. And I think as you dig into the core of artistry and you look at and talk to people that think of themselves and consider themselves as artists, that their perspective is, I think this comes across in music. I might go see a show and it might not mash my buttons and get me super excited, but it doesn't change the amount of respect that I have for the person doing the performance. It doesn't change the amount of respect I have for the art that they've created just because I don't like it or it makes me uncomfortable.
That sounds un-American.
Wait, which part sounds un-American?
No, but these are all extreme.
Don't fall off the stool, bro.
I'm getting old. Mornings
Growing
are harder.
older, but not up. I know how it goes. I'm on the same track.
But the importance of that connection, I think, cannot be understated, and certainly goes a long way to match. As you put it, because it makes you uncomfortable, I think, is why it's there. Because I don't think that we can grow in an echo chamber. So if we only see things that we enjoy, that we agree with, we don't have, light is determined by shadow, right? We can't see if everything was bright white, we couldn't see the differences or the distances. We need those contrasts to understand where we are in the world. We need light and shadow. We need light, same thing. Part of it just for fun. I eat a McDonald's, once every 2 or 3 months to make sure that my system is not so pure that it can't handle it. Does that make sense? So you have to do.
Yeah, it does make sense. Mine's more ice cream than McDonald's.
Right. But something that every now and again challenges you a little bit. Read a book that you may not necessarily, the reviews so far make you uncomfortable, but, read it, see what happens. It's not going to kill you.
Yeah. I mean, you could also just go into the comments section on like WECT or WWAY on Facebook, and everybody will find something there to make themselves uncomfortable.
Oh yeah, that's anything, and certainly with what we have going on right now, I'm sure there's plenty of. And to get past that and then back into the humanity where there's that sense of conflict that's not unique to any one person. I mean, these are struggles that we've had for centuries, which is why we still identify with the Mona Lisa, which is why we still identify with that Gothic painting.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's absolutely true. I think that my hope is that we can continue to evolve, and I really mean that mostly in an energetic and emotional way. And so when, and I can relate to this, I can attest to this. There was a point in time in my life when I had a different perspective, and I might appear on the outside to be calm and cool and unruffled by things that I heard that I disagreed with. But on the inside, it was all I could do to manage my fight, flight, or freeze response. Like I either wanted to yell at the person or just shut down and not engage. Or to run away. And, I think that's the beauty of artists is they've got the courage to put the product out there. Product is the wrong word, but to put their
art, their
soul, work, their art, their impression, their soul, their perception out there and be brave enough to do that. And I think intending it in a way to be controversial, and I'll use Kookalura as an example. I'm okay if people get up and leave in the middle of a movie at Kookalura because they're offended or their feelings are hurt or it's challenged them. Because you know what? If art doesn't get a reaction, then that says something. I'm not sure what it says. I'm not going to go out on the limb of trying to criticize you.
Not saying something is saying something.
Yeah, it's a big deal, and so I think that if we can, back to the evolution bit, if we can evolve beyond fight, flight, or freeze, and this is not individually, this is as a society, then maybe we can get to a place of empathy and hearing and understanding why people have the perspectives that they do. I'd like to think that art would help lead to civil discourse. That seems to be an art form that has, really, really gone by the wayside.
Mm-hmm.
And this is bringing up an interesting thought for me. Say what you want about what's happened in our country in the last 2 or 3 years, but for me, my perspective, bottom line, is that we are being deeply, deeply, deeply manipulated. I have no idea exactly by whom, and I have no idea to exactly what end. But rather than buy into the manipulation, wherever you perceive that it's coming from, maybe we would all do better to plug into some more hyperlocal art, and go appreciate the beauty of some things, go appreciate the contrast of some things, and get our heads out of this constant debate over things that we can't control, that ultimately, even if we could control them, they may not even impact us, depending on how that unfolds in a larger national sense. But the things that we can have influence over and control and enjoy are hyperlocal. It's art on the local level. It's getting to know, well, why does CB sing songs about these things, and why does Emily sing songs about those things, and I've never heard of this local artist that has these paintings installed at this restaurant, and that's a way better place to live than kind of arguing and fighting and cussing with each other about whatever new
division
puppet is going to be installed in whatever new position. Pick one.
Yep.
Gosh, we went all deep on that, man. Sorry about that. You asked some good questions.
Not at all. I mean, that's the whole reason why we're doing this, and part of the reason why I'm bringing you on the show, and making it something of a regular segment because we have performances coming up. We ran out of time to list this week, but guaranteed if you visit the Voice and Pen Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, social medias, the links to the upcoming live stream next Wednesday has the list of all the artists and the times and all that good stuff, and you can set it up if you subscribe and click the reminder bell, the notification bell. It'll let you know when the stream goes live. It'll let you know when it's about to go live, and it'll let you know everything about the stream before we go live. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, so I think that's my big request, since I ran my mouth too much and didn't get to actually shout out the artists and everything. My big request is go to our socials, please. If you love art, if you love music, if you are interested in watching people's careers grow as performance artists and performing musicians, go like our socials, follow them. Like TK said, subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn the notification on so that Wednesday at 7 p.m. it dings and says, hey, there's some music coming up that you'll probably really enjoy, or at least you'll have a reaction to.
Yep. And the whole, it's a 2.5 to 3 hour gig depending, and most of that time is enjoyable for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to say it's everything for everyone, but everyone has something in that 3 hours to really enjoy. And the food trucks, I keep forgetting that they have amazing food trucks because I'm always buried under the cables. But we have food trucks at the Waterline gigs every Wednesday. And the fact that they change it from a bar atmosphere into a listening room for us that's the testament to where they are with this. Not only do they, this is the proof of their support is that they're willing to literally rebuild that room each Wednesday to help us make a listening room, and it's phenomenal to have support.
They basically give us complete control of the space. They're not worried about the impact that we have on their patrons. They are concerned with making sure that we have a platform for musicians to put their material out there and to influence the community and to gain support from the community. I think we got to remember to get a shot, a photograph from Court, from our photographer, from the stage one night, so people can see. All the photos we have are super cool. They're of the stage from the audience view, but I think some photos of the audience view from the stage might be beneficial to folks out there in the internet world.
And since we have run over the hour, I would like to say one last thing, is I'm going to be meeting my friend Mr. Johnson a little later for some music. Yep. Yeah. Even though I've forgotten where it is right now. Where are we going to be?
We will be at the Harp, Fine Irish Food on South 3rd Street. I think it's 1423 South 3rd Street, Wilmington, North Carolina. Showtime starts at 7 p.m. and we'll be playing an eclectic mix of covers, at least our take on certain songs, and then originals as well. Stoked to be playing some tunes with you tonight, man.
It's going to be fun. So if you're hungry and thirsty and want something to do in the, it's 5th Street, right? 3rd Street area. I get it and the blues venue because they're in that same neighborhood.
Yeah, Rusty Nail.
Yeah.
We are not at the Rusty Nail.
Not at the Rusty Nail this week. We are going to be
Harp has
at
food,
the Harp.
The Nail doesn't. Go to the place that has food.
And bring your belly. All right. With that in mind, I got to end the show before I get in all kinds of trouble. And I will see you in just a couple hours, and I will see everyone else probably on Monday when we resume the the Asylum for the week. So right now we are going to hit this button, and it's not going to work, right? Because I'm still not. There it is. That's the end of the week at the Asylum. Thanks again, CB. And I'll see you in a bit. Ladies and gentlemen, that will close the broadcast week for the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad. Following next is the Consumer Choice Radio by the genius Yael Osowski and his even cooler partner, David Clement. Obviously running a little late, so it'll probably run without commercials. Enjoy that. It's my gift to you on this Friday. See you next week, ladies and gentlemen.
Keeping Wilmington informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.
Wake up to Good Morning Carolina, weekdays at 5:30 a.m.
And good morning, Carolina. It is a very busy news morning today. I'm Donna Gregory.
And I'm Jeff Rivenbark. We're glad you're starting your Tuesday with us.
Be prepared and ready to go for the day ahead.
For the time being, we are dry and quiet, but we are dealing with some patchy fog.
And catch up with the overnight news you need to know before heading out the door.
We'll have more details and more live coverage in just a few moments.
Get up early for Good Morning Carolina, weekdays at 5:30 a.m.
Teachers and parents, the North Carolina Symphony is here to support you as you carry on the education of your children and students. Take your kids on a free virtual field trip to the Symphony with a virtual education concert and companion student book. Go on a virtual journey to learn what makes music music with music by William Grant Still, Beethoven, Brahms, and more. Access the free video and student book with password 1932 at ncsymphony.org/virtual.
Folks, the sad truth of it is most of what we're seeing in the news cycle is just noise, and it's recycled noise at that. Nothing informative, nothing that actually helps us discern the times that we live in. That's why we started doing Heard Tell. Every morning right here on Big Talker Network, 7 a.m. with a replay at 3 p.m., we talk and discuss the issues of the day, culture and politics with knowledgeable guests, no yelling, no caterwauling, just grown folk talk about the issues that matter. Join me, Andrew Donaldson, every weekday morning for Heard Tell.
It's time for today's STEM tip. Okay, you know recycling is important. No one wants plastic in the ocean. Here's a cool way to repurpose a plastic bottle. Build an awesome terrarium. Cut a large plastic bottle in half and fill the base with sand, pebbles, potting soil, and your favorite plant. I chose an African violet. Put the top of the bottle over your base and place it in the sun. Your plant will grow sealed in its own ecosystem. Fun, right? Learn more at She Can STEM. A message from the Ad Council.
Hello and welcome to Consumer Choice Radio, broadcasting from the center of the office here in Central Europe. I'm one half of your host, Yael Ossowski. Things are going well here in Vienna, Austria. We've got some nice weather that's finally peaked out. We got a lot of things that are happening in the news, but I am very, very excited for this program. I'm joined by my colleague here at the Consumer Choice Center. We're speaking with Anna Runashvili. Anna, how goes it?
Hi, Yael. I'm so happy to be here today. It goes well, I guess. Unfortunately, I cannot say the same about Georgian weather. It's been raining for a whole week, and it's expected to be like that throughout the next week too. So I'm jealous of
you're
your
coming
shiny
to us
weather.
from Tbilisi, Georgia. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. Tbilisi, Georgia.
So are you right in Tbilisi? Or are you in a suburb and you just say Tbilisi, or how does that work?
No, no. I live in Tbilisi, one of the central parts of the city, but I'm not originally from there, so I'm not gonna lie that I'm native Tbilisian.
No, it's cool. It's cool. Okay, good. And for a lot of listeners of this program, by the way, you guys can go and listen to the past shows and archives over there in ConsumerChoiceRadio.com. The podcast version on Podcasting 2.0. I know I talk a lot about that. Anna, does the Podcasting 2.0 thing sound exciting, or does it sound a bit too complicated to you?
It's exciting. I'm still not quite sure what is that, but it sounds very exciting.
So we're going to get you a modern podcast app, something like Fountain or Breeze. You can download this program. It will come with a little Bitcoin wallet within that app, and people can send their Satoshis. They can send a boostagram, so you can actually send a message to people during the program while you're listening, or set it to a particular setting, so you can send